The Common Legend is a podcast for everyone.
Hello and welcome to The Common Legend, where legends are more common than you may think. My name is Sean, and this week our legend is Sebastian Uzcategui. Sebastian is an entrepreneur, a full-time day trader, the founder of Stocks University, and a keynote speaker on financial empowerment and personal growth. Sebastian was born in Venezuela, but grew up in Florida, and at a very young age, he learned about the importance of hard work and perseverance. He wound up discovering the stock market when he was only 14 years old. I don't know what I was doing when I was 14, but it wasn't that. And he went on to start his first business when he was only 16. What the hell? I'm really excited to learn more about Sebastian's story. So yeah, Sebastian, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It's an honor to be here, man. I'm excited to speak with you as well.
So here, let me just check my notes real quick. So Sebastian, you were born in Venezuela.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't spend too much time there. I came here when I was only like 4 years old or something. But it was still obviously a big shift, especially for my family that didn't know much about what it was to live in the United States. And the way that I like to describe it is a lot of people come here for the American dream, but end up falling into the American trap. And that's pretty much the main thing that drove me so much towards learning about finance and entrepreneurship.
And the American trap, you mean like the daily grind, the staying in debt, the never getting ahead?
Those exact things, especially the debt. I mean, this system loves to tempt you into getting in debt. It lies to you and says that you can buy things that you really can't, just so you have to permanently live, pay interest, and generate free money for the system, really. It's abusive, but there are ways to leverage the system for you to succeed as well.
Yeah. Well, totally. Yeah. With every system, like if you learn it, you can use it for good or evil, But I think what you're touching on is the education aspect of the financial markets in the America, everywhere, actually, in the world. They're not really designed with our education in mind.
Absolutely right. As a matter of fact, I mean, you've probably heard about it. One of the things I love about this country is capitalism is one of the only systems where you can move around, you can leverage it, you can succeed. Where I come from in Venezuela, that's not really possible. Wherever you're born into, you're pretty much stuck. But at the end of the day, we're in this country. We're here basically manufactured to be employees, never really to be dreamers or entrepreneurs. You have to find that for yourself, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really true. Yeah, they make it tough too to pursue that, even if you have that spark in you, because you still have your bills, your mortgage, your car payment. You have these obligations that you have to keep up with while you balance out whatever else you're doing, such as this podcast right now.
Right. And that's the beauty of pursuing a dream is eventually, it pays for itself. But at first, you have to have almost like this irrational, this crazy perseverance that, you can only rationalize with your own passion. No one else will really buy it until you make it.
Oh yeah, that's a huge one. With like any dream you ever decide to chase, people are always going to just be like, okay, or like you're a little too obsessed until you fucking get where you know where you want to go, and then they're like, wow, how'd you do it? And you're like, wow, how did I do it?
You saw me do
when
it.
You remember when you were complaining?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. So
how did you discover the stock market at such a young age?
honestly, it's gonna sound funny, but I was always kind of like, I want to say a big reason why I wanted to be an entrepreneur was because as a kid, I was just so lazy to think, I don't want to work for 60 years. I was like, dude, that sucks. So in a funny way, I ended up working harder because I was lazy and I didn't want to do that for my whole life. And from a very young age, I knew that if I could master the stock market, that's effectively generating cash out of thin air. It's a numbers game. It's a very tight numbers game. And that was when I was 14. I'm almost 10 years deep into that. And I had to learn so many lessons, but I'm glad I started young because I was able to learn that I've had so much time to really develop those skills.
Yeah. 14, like shit. Everyone says they wish they started saving money and investing when they were 14,
Yeah.
So it was,
head start.
Yeah. That head start, man, it's obviously paying off for you, right? You're doing pretty well, right? You don't have any huge debts. You're not swimming in interest like me.
Thankfully not. I was always very careful. I was very debt wary. I mean, if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, the standard stuff that they tell you is there's good debt, there's bad debt. Um, Even where I'm at today, I still drive a Corolla. I never
Hey,
wanted
man.
to, and I'm happy with it. It gets me from point A to point B. I never wanted to
Amen.
get into any debt that was going to just choke me out and force me to, just go knee deep into something when I could be
Right.
buying something that's going to put me further ahead instead.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I hate on this topic. I hate people who are just so like hyperfixated, specifically on the car. They're like, I need $200,000 car. I'm like, bro, this $600 beater is doing the job. Like,
I totally agree. And I mean, that's where they really get you. That's another part of the trap, the American trap. Even when you are winning, they love to kind of try to slip you into. I mean, there's a trap for the poor, which is just getting into debt, 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 debt. And there's also a trap for the rich, which is focusing on the vain aspects of money, the useless parts of it, like the watches, the clothes, and the cars. When if you take it one step further and instead of focusing on money, you focus on wealth, which is very different, you can go so much further.
yeah. Oh no, 100%. And it's almost like people in the wealthier classes kind of get disillusioned at a certain point where they don't even want to buy something that could be better because it's cheaper, you know?
Right.
So, like, I mean, look at this podcast setup I got. It's not it's not the same Shure mics everyone got. You don't have it either, but we sound amazing. We look fine, you know?
Exactly right. I totally agree. And I think more than anything else, what shines brighter than all the clothes or cars or whatever, it's purpose. You can always tell when someone is money hungry, just trying to get a buck out of someone. Those are the entrepreneurs that fail every single time. We have a big culture today of like the fake Instagram entrepreneurs that just have like scam either courses or stuff like that. They're never going to get anywhere because they're looking for a buck. But the big companies, the true entrepreneurs, they focus on purpose. They focus on a need and to genuinely and authentically look for it to be a solution for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And you say again, this inspiration came from when you were so young because you saw the trap your parents were in. Is that what it was?
Yeah, that was a big part of it. I mean, first I was an only child, and my dad played the role of like dad and brother at the same time when I was growing up. Because of that, we're some of the only family that we had here in the States, so it was pretty much just me, my mom, and my dad. And then it got so bad at one point where I remember they would both be working over 12 hours every day, and I didn't really get to see them that much. Obviously, I saw like my dad, who was a very pure and innocent soul, have like that drained out of him by the system, become very like exhausted and naturally more irritable, and man, it felt like to a certain extent I lost my family in that system. They were never bad or they were never not there for me, but I just thought to myself, we're human beings. Like, this is not what we were born for, and we were not put on this planet. The most valuable thing we have is our time. So why do we
Yeah.
sell it for $15 an hour? It's crazy.
It's truly insane. Like what corporations can value someone's time, their life at. And I know what you're talking about all too well. The feeling drained and soulless from, the job. Especially I've worked for a big mega corporation Activision for the last 3 years, and I felt it slowly drain my soul until I just woke up one day and I'm like, enough is enough. And I took the steps to take my life back.
That's good, man. That's beautiful stuff. It is naturally an almost abusive system. I mean, if you think about it, you're putting so much blood, sweat, and tears into someone else's dream for something that doesn't belong to you. Not too long ago, but my parents worked for the same job for almost 20 years, and they both lost their jobs at the same time in 2023. It was awful, man. It was crazy to see how they could shed so much blood, sweat, and tears and suffering for a corporation that just kicked them out on the curb with nothing. And you got to realize you chase a job for its consistency, but it's about the most dangerous thing you can do to put your entire life in someone else's hands.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't put all your chips in one pot, and no matter what it is, in investments or in your time. Yeah. Diversify your portfolio, which is your life.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
But yeah, I'm sure that then you kind of feel like had your parents maybe gone more down like chasing their dreams and were successful in that route, they might have been like more present, or more like you're just, what am I trying to think here? Like they would have been different or happier or like more
Happier,
themselves who
definitely.
they are.
Well, they were people that had dreams. But you have a family and you come to a new country and it's easy to have this fear, like just completely injected into you where, man, we can't really do this or that. It's not safe. We have a kid to raise. I totally understand the reason to fall into that. But I mean, my dad would talk about businesses. My dad would talk about doing this or that, investing or starting a million different ideas, and none of them ever went through. And I don't blame him. I see a lot of my friends do the same thing. They talk a lot about how they want to do this or that, and they never start.
Yeah.
And it's because on a logical basis, it doesn't make sense. Why would you start something, work so hard when you're not going to get paid for it for the first 2, 3, 4, even 5 years? But that's, if I were to ask you what humanity's biggest strength is over animals, what separates us, you might say what, like intelligence, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I think really it's the ability to put ourselves through so much suffering for an idea that only exists in our head. The idea of a business, the idea of a podcast or investing, all of those things, those are delayed gratification, results for the future. Even when you go to the gym, you're not built yet, but you're going for that idea and you're deliberately suffering for something that doesn't even exist. When you capitalize on that talent, you will always find success. It doesn't have to exist now. Being rational is one of the last, I would say the most detrimental thing you could have as an entrepreneur, because on a rational level, it doesn't make sense. You're going to be making nothing at first, but you have a vision. And if you stick to it, you will see the results.
Like I'd say 90% of the time, like consistency and your dedication, your passion will end up being a net positive. You will see results if you don't stop. You just can't stop.
I completely agree. There is, I'm not sure if you've heard of this curve. It's called like the informed pessimism curve or uninformed optimism. Well, it's a curve that's basically the idea is you're never going to succeed at anything at first. No matter what you do on an entrepreneurial level, of course, you're never going to succeed at first. Everything is harder than you think, right? And you see a lot of guys on Instagram today that are always talking about how they do drop shipping and they're millionaires, or they do crypto and they're millionaires, and then you try to do it and then you make jack shit. It sucks.
Yeah.
The reason why that happens is because everything at first, when you want to get into something, what you're seeing is what's called uninformed optimism. You don't know anything about it. It seems super easy. You get into it. So the curve starts up here. Then you come down into what's called informed pessimism when you realize, dude, this is hard. I don't want to do this. Most people stop right there. But if you keep going through it just a little bit more, you get into what's called informed optimism, where, yes, it's harder than you thought, but if you just dedicate more into it, you will make it work. Everything can make you money. Everything, whether you're into, social media management or Amazon FBA, whatever it is, if you dedicate enough to it to make it work, you will make it work. But where most people go to fail is starting 10% effort into one thing, realizing I didn't make any money, so they just give up. And that's going to be the truth for everything.
For everything, anything. Yep. It's so true. Like when I started this podcast, for example, I made an investment that I knew I actually came to the terms with myself of I would possibly never see a return on it. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be like, okay, it's faith. It's a leap of faith.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
But no, you're right. It's this capitalistic trap that we're all unfortunately stuck in. And like you said, it's our brains that put us in these logic loops of I can't leave my job because I have this, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to pay this bill. And if I leave my job, how am I going to pay the bill?
Right,
But
absolutely. And I mean, the biggest
fact-
tragedy.
No, go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go
Didn't
on.
mean to cut you off.
No, I insist. No, you go. Okay. No, go on. It's
I
cool.
was getting girlfriend vibes right now that you hang up. No. So what I was going to say was just the biggest tragedy is you need money to make money, right?
Yeah.
So it's super easy. I mean, what's it called? Dude, I had a 6-figure job when I was like 20. I was doing, well, near 6-figure. I was doing really well working at a hotel. And I mean, I had so much potential to move up, but I got scared because I saw everyone in the position ahead of me, which was a full multiple 6-figure job. Dude, they're all like really old and miserable, right? And I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being old at all, but when you're old and miserable, that's a problem.
Right. Yeah. That you can't be both.
Yeah, because I saw them and I realized, man, you know what? This job pays just good enough for you to get comfortable to give up on your dreams, right? And I got so scared of that. I quit that job. I only had 3,000 in the bank at that point. I quit the job and I said, I told my boss, put me up for do not rehire, which just means that I could never come back to that.
Blacklist
And
me.
yeah, I said that because I knew that I was going to end up looking back if I failed. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I failed. Those
Did you
3,000
look
did
back?
not get me very far. I didn't go back because I couldn't. So I had
No,
to
did
make
you look
it work.
back though? Did you think about it?
I burnt the bridge, so I couldn't. That was really the point. I
Damn,
didn't ever even want to be able to look back. And the truth is, I mean, yeah, I honestly I should have saved up a little bit more before making that
Yeah,
huge
3K,
leap.
yeah.
Not a lot, but I was 20.
A lot.
So I made that leap and I failed, and then I failed again, and then I made it work. But the only reason why I was able to put up with all that failure and keep trying was because I had no other option. I had to just make it work. And burning the bridge is sometimes one of the best things you can do for yourself.
Fuck yeah, I completely agree. Oh my God. What you're touching on, I love the quote from Batman. Why do we fall, Bruce? So we can learn to pick ourselves back up. The person that wins the fight isn't the one that punches the hardest. It's the one that keeps getting back up, you know?
Right.
Or in the terms of the Mike Tyson Paul fight, I guess it's just money. So, yeah, no, I mean, how old are you now? I'm curious. I don't know. You look young.
You wouldn't believe if I told you.
36.
No.
No, thank you.
I'm 22 years old. I'm 22. Yeah.
22. You were talking about this hotel job in your 20s like it was a fucking decade ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, it's felt like it. I mean, that's also one of the things that I value most about the entrepreneurship walk. Whatever it is that you do, I mean, even just trading stocks, you're an entrepreneur, really. You're already thinking in that mindset. But what I love so much about that is because you're moving so much, life doesn't feel so repetitive. You don't see the years just fly by like that. It's been 2 years and it feels like a decade. So much has happened. And I've seen my business and my investments, dude, double, triple, quadruple. I don't know what the next one would be, but it kept going, it just kept going, because when you have that freedom to just move so violently, you can never go wrong. You'll fail sometimes, but as long as you keep moving, and especially moving violently, you learn and you grow so much. I have so many friends and family that are just so stagnant, because they're afraid of that move. But make a couple big moves and that fear just goes away and you get so much further ahead.
Oh, I completely agree. That's the truth. You just have to face your fears head on. So I'm curious. So you left the hotel at 20 and then the 3K ran out and you're struggling. But between then and now, those 2 years, how did you get up on your feet and get the money to invest and start Stocks University?
Well, Stocks University existed before that. That's pretty much the reason why I had so much struggle, was because my whole business was always like a passion project. But the passion wasn't seen at first, and it was very expensive for me to keep it running for a long time, which was what kind of just kept draining my finances. Even though I was investing and doing very well with that, I had a big drain with the company. But I had a vision with it. I started Stocks Uni in 2020, so 5 years ago now. The passion with Stocks Uni was to fix the industry, the trading industry, and really the whole finance industry. It's honestly, it's shit. It's super
Broken.
shit. Everyone there is either overcharging for unpromising courses or just straight up scamming. It's impossible to really feel good about it, and especially what the worst part about it is if you're selling the idea of success like these Instagram gurus are, why do I have to pay you first? Why do I have to? If you're gonna make me money, why do I have to pay you first?
I'm gonna show you how to get rich for free. Buy this book first, though.
Yeah, $5,000 for this course, and that's what it usually is.
That's just a selfie YouTube video. No,
That's
go on.
exactly what it is. Yeah, and they're just talking crap most of the time. But
Yeah.
when I started Stocks Uni was with the vision to fix that. I noticed that I can read the market like a book, and that's a talent that not a lot of people have, and those who do have it abuse of it for those courses. And I decided I wanted to fix the industry. So I made, if you look anywhere around, Stocks Uni is the world's most affordable platform for learning about investing, which really is super important in today's world. The only shame is that it's so gatekept. So it's the world's most affordable platform for it, with the most attention. And the main thing is people don't have to pay up front. They can pay after they start seeing results, because I'm so faithful in that. You shouldn't be investing in me or paying me before you pay yourself if I'm selling you the idea of money. Doesn't make sense. So that was very different than anything that the industry had seen before. So at first it was really hard to get it off the ground because people saw that and they were like, I don't get it, right? So I spent a couple of years really trying to build that up, and I spent over $20,000 in ads just losing. I spent so much. I tried so many different things, but what ended up getting me off the ground was two big things. At the end of 2023, when it was like crunch time, I remember so many things were going on. I had just gotten cheated on. I was having a really rough time. My parents lost their jobs at the same time too, and it was just crunch time, I built my own marketing team from scratch, and at one point I had up to 40 employees that were just working so hard to bring in so much clients, and my business exploded. I mean, it nearly quadrupled. I think it more than quadrupled at that time.
Hold on a second here. Hey, shut up. Okay, go on. Sorry.
I had a
so your business more than quadrupled.
Yeah, it was going absolutely nuts. And then I took it a step further because I realized, you know what? I got 40 people here working on marketing, and they're doing good, but I knew that the growth was too linear. And as an entrepreneur, you got to always look for explosive, exponential growth.
Yeah.
So I actually cut that team more than in half. 25% of the people was all that I had left at one point because I got rid of the rest. Because I said, what's one thing that always worked out for me, that always helped me connect with more people and really helped them see my vision, was speaking, public speaking. So instead, I started doing public speaking religiously, and I've spoken in front of crowds of hundreds of people at a time in real stages today. And man, once again, my business quadrupled. It completely exploded, right? And that's why I always say you're always one good decision away from seeing exponential growth. Right when you're about to give up, right when things are the worst, just one more decision, just one more change.
One more.
And you can see it.
Yeah. And at 22, for being a keynote speaker, like that's kind of impressive. Like you don't see many young gun keynotes. So, and you said religiously. So let's touch on that. Did you grow up religious?
Yeah, my family was always, my family was Catholic, so I always grew up religious, but I was rather unchurched, if you want to put it that way. I just kind of followed, not the idea of religion, but the idea of God kind of on my own. I think that kind of made me a little bit more pure, I guess, in that sense, because a lot of the time when you go to a certain church, you're following their culture or agenda, so sometimes you miss out on that stuff. But I do like the presence of that.
Totally. So do you still consider yourself a man of faith then? Do you still identify as Christian?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think if there's one thing that helped me stay afloat and continue seeing success was that faith. I actually just came back from the United Nations because of a spiritual father of mine that had invited me to go.
Really?
Yeah, and it was an amazing experience. And I only got access to that really through faith. And I had spoken for him, the same thing. I think if you really want to look at it this way, if there's one community of people that are so open to helping each other grow, it's those in the faith. I think for a business owner to have gratitude that you are in the faith, to give back. I mean, I give access to Stocks Uni for a lot of people in the church world. And I've actually, I actually just had another pastor. He gave me $10,000 to invest for him. And I want to give back to him $20,000, so double it no later than May. So I want to, do that for him so he can actually reinvest in the church.
Yeah. Faith. There's that community aspect right there, which is like what we're lacking in society. And I think a lot of our issues are systemic from, because the things you talked about earlier, where like we stay in these jobs that are killing us because we have to. If we had a community that saw us suffering like that, they'd be like, hey, stop working. We got you. We'll feed you and we'll keep you afloat until you can do something that makes you happier and still provide for yourself. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So faith brought that to you.
Yeah, well, exactly right. And I mean, my vision was always the reason why I speak for a lot of churches. The reason why I do is because I see that if there's a community that has been rather left behind or impoverished, it's been the church. A lot of the church folk are such big believers, such hard workers, but they are just trapped in these cycles, right? Yeah. And man, if there's people that, they spend 7 days praying on a week, it's them, they are just praying and praying and praying for something. But all these opportunities are just flying over their heads. So I dedicated a big portion of my life to speaking at these churches, teaching them of this stuff, and really what I want to do is work from the ground up, plant the seeds, make these families have these conversations of finance, have these conversations of investing, so that they don't have to fall into that. Rich
Oh
dad,
yeah.
poor dad. What's the reason why the rich get richer? You're born into rich conversations, so you're thinking of investing. The poor are born into poor conversations. You're not thinking about any of
True.
that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time that's the case for a lot of church folk. So I decided that I was going to teach a lot of my students are pastors or apostles or whatever, and the reason why and I teach them for free is because I hope that, and some of them are already at this point, that they can start talking to their people about this stuff and get them in those mindsets.
Yeah. No, it's really important how you touched on the rich conversations, poor conversations. It's important to have both, I think, because I was born in a well-off family in a well-off city, and then I kind of got thrusted on my ass and had to sink or swim. And so I learned how to think poor, and I already learned how to think rich. And I think it's the contrast and knowing the differences. It's something about that lets you see the patterns, and you just can make more sense of things.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I wasn't born into, so my situation is somewhat similar actually, but pretty funny. My dad in Venezuela was born into a rich family, right? But none of that wealth really belonged to him at any point, and it was almost like an abusive relationship that they had with that because it's not your money. So they can pretty much do whatever they want to you and you kind of have to take it. So he moved with my mother here to the United States yeah, we're broke, but we're broke on our own behalf. I think that's
On my terms. Yeah.
exactly. My dad always say this thing. It's a quote in Spanish, but it translated in English, it means I'd rather be the head of a rat than the tail of a lion. Right? I like that because it's about owning what you have. You don't have to be. You have to be yourself. You don't have to be rich, but you have to be you. It has to belong to you. I wasn't born into rich conversations because my parents, they came here with nothing at that point and they fell into the trap and they didn't have those conversations. But I got to see or want more for myself and end up having those conversations and finding people that could enlighten me on that stuff.
Right. Well, because of your curiosity too, like that played an important part.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
not just their experience.
also killing the ego and being open to learning is a huge thing.
Okay, let's talk about that because killing the ego is my number one recommendation to anyone.
Wow.
And I don't think it really dies, but you can keep punching it and like, get back down there, bitch. Like,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
ego will come up, but the ego is what stops you from doing so many things. I'm not going to eat that because my ego thinks this person will think that. I'm not going to do that or wear this, or I'm not going to make this move. I'm not going to say what I want to say because of this ego. So when
totally
did you
agree.
start to really acknowledge that?
Well, I was very young, so I never had this. When we're born, we don't really have much of an ego. Our souls are very liquid. They're very absorbent. They fill into whatever shape our environment puts us in, which is why it's so important to have a good environment. When you're born poor, it's very easy for your liquid soul to automatically embody that, and that's fine. What is a tragedy that I see happen is as people age, their souls tend to calcify, only like what they have inside of them and hate and reject everything outside. They feel like they're too old to make changes in their lives. They already know this stuff. They've already been through this stuff. So it's very hard for those people to be lifelong learners or especially listen to younger people or any people for that matter, right? That's where the ego kind of comes into play. I never really had much of that. I was always very open to saying, hey, you know more than I do. I'm here to learn. Hey, I'm not perfect by any means. And I always consider myself like that. I always want to be a lifelong learner. I think there's always something I can learn from everyone, really.
Absolutely, everyone can learn something from anyone. Like what you touch on, I completely agree with the calcified soul. I love that. I love that term. Some people are just stuck in their beliefs, in their ways, and they are who they are, and they think everything is the way it is, and they're not open to anything being something different. And it's so sad to see. What do you
Absolutely.
think really is the catalyst of that?
Well, I think it's just kind of a resentment towards everything, There are two big philosophies in this world, and you see it happen. There's I hate everything and I love everything, That's pretty much what it boils down to. There's people, and you see it a lot in the church world, especially, which is kind of sad. But people that, I mean, everything that isn't within their church, everything that isn't religious related, they just instantly reject and hate. And there's tools that, at the end of the day, they were put here by God to a high extent for us. You know, there's no use in rejecting a lot of these tools, especially tools for financial multiplication that were designed for that prosperity. You know, and you turn them down just because they're not, you know, necessarily church related, but that doesn't mean that they're not spiritual to some extent. So I think that's a big reason, is just rejecting everything outside of what you like, when in reality, there's never a shortage of things to love or beauty in this world. There's only a shortage of the will to see that. Everything has its own rights to exist. Everything is beautiful, and you can take something from everything. If you could just keep that in mind, that you can always take something, it becomes easy to be open.
That was very well put. I like you're no wonder you're a keynote fucking speaker. Okay, I get it.
Appreciate that.
That was very eloquently put. Yeah, I think it boils down to fear and comfort. People get stuck in this comfort zone and they don't want to be uncomfortable. And they don't realize that the only time that change or progress occurs is when you get uncomfortable, when you take a risk, you know, when you face that fear, because fear can control the masses.
Right.
Like so fast.
I completely agree. The big thing, so I think living life is a skill. And I don't mean that you're better at living life because you have more money or whatever, or you're worse at it because you have less money. Living life is a skill in the sense of, what does it take for you to step out of your comfort zone? What's your breaking point at which you say, I'm gonna wake up, that's enough, and you snap out of it? You know, at which point does that happen? I've got some friends that, man, they will go through some of the most life-changing wake-up calls and most like significant things that, I mean, I would say like that would be my breaking point, and they just stay in the same place. You know, I saw my parents do that same thing. They both lost their jobs, and what they did, my dad looked for some business opportunities for himself for some time. He ended up just finding a different job, and you know what? That's fine. That's totally fine. But no change happened, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You fall into the same place. I've always been someone, I take very little to break. I take very little to just wake up and say, man, you know what, I'm sick of this, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where the skill of life comes into play, because when you are quick to say, you know what, I want to change, you know what, something drastic needs to happen, then that's when you live life. And I've always been someone that gets, number one, bored very easily, and number two, depressed when I'm in like repetitive states. I love to just move aggressively. If I gotta just completely do a 180, I will do it.
Yeah. Yeah. What you're touching on, I like to, when people talk to me, the way I put it is my cutoff walk away game is strong. As soon as like I realize that, you know, you have enough insight and you're like, oh, this is going to lead to this point in my life and I don't want to be there. And like it's a skill, like you said. Yeah. Life's a game, so play it. Okay. So look at it like a fucking video game, like stock markets. It's stats, it's numbers. So, you know, if I do this, then this happens. ITTT, if this, then that. It's a coding terminology. It's literally what AI is. People like wake up. Like it's mimicking it's mimicking our brains. And so like I think that's important to touch on. And
there's a quote, I think it's the Japanese that say this, but they say, if you get on the wrong train, just get off on the first stop. If you stay on it longer, you're just going to go further away from where your destination is, right? And I think what you describe, you know, you have to be very, very good at just cutting stuff off and moving on. You will, if there's one thing that like differentiates you, you know how people talk about how, you know, you don't see your friend for like 5 years and you've gone through so much, you've gone through so many changes or whatever, and then you see them again and they're still in the same place. That's where that difference happens. Whether or not you're capable of just cutting off whatever you got going on and just moving in the direction that you know you have to. There's a part of you that tells you what you want to do, what you should be doing, and sometimes it's so quiet that it's like you're like asleep through it, you know? And that's why I say the word wake up, because you have to wake up, listen to it, and just move in whatever direction that is, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean to ramble, but
No, ramble, man. We got time. Ramble.
My wake-up call for that, the moment that I realized, like, bro, what am I doing? Like, you're right. It was so, this is one of those things that I say, that this is God ordained. It was like a miracle almost. I was already doing very well for myself in the stock market. I was only, I was 18, and I had just gone to the gym. I went to the sun and I was talking to my friends about some stock stuff, and someone next to me overheard me. he started talking to me about it, asking me a ton of questions, and he said, you know what? You should start a business teaching this stuff. And I said, nah, man, I'm 18. Like, I want to, build a name for myself first. I want to have my social media accounts up to like 100,000 first. I want to do this or that or this or that. And he said, why? Just start.
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
That snapped me out of it. I'm like, dude,
that was it.
Yeah.
That was
and this
aha
guy,
moment.
bro, this guy, first of all, he was an ex-prisoner in the faith who is now a father of two, beautiful family he's got, and he doesn't even go to that gym. He just happened to be there. And that conversation just changed my life completely because it told me, bro, what are you waiting for? You don't have to have everything be perfect. I think that's what holds people back is waiting for things to be perfect. You're waiting for this cutoff point, like you said.
Yeah.
You're waiting for things to line up, or you're waiting for their breaking point. You're in a terrible relationship and you're waiting for it to get worse before you leave.
Yeah.
You're in an abusive, or you're in an abusive relationship even with a job, and you're waiting for what? For the next time for it to get bad? No, that's bullshit. Just move. That's it.
Yeah, totally. It's like if you leave a pizza in the oven too long and it's a little burnt, are you going to just leave it in there to let it just turn to ash? Like, or are you going to take it the fuck out? Yeah, I love that. I love thank you so much for sharing that aha moment. Cause like whether or not you believe in a higher power, I'm a man of faith, but I don't identify with any religion. Buddhism is my favorite of the religions.
It's a beautiful religion.
It's more of a handbook, a user's hand guide to how to live life than a religion. But those moments, like that's fate, that's destiny. When someone just like walks by you, says one thing, and something just clicks in your brain. And I have a few of those myself for various things, and like they're beautiful. We have to cherish those moments.
Absolutely, I agree, and I very much respect that. You're a person of spirituality. I've also generally been someone that stays away from the idea of religion because to me that's like it's a human thing. I'm a man of faith myself too, and for a long time I walked that same way. I think Buddhism is also a beautiful religion. It has so many beautiful lessons of being present, and I think you learn so much from it too because it teaches you at the end of the day to embody that divinity in yourself, right? Rather than just worship it, right? I think
that's the huge difference.
There's a certain point at which you have to just embody these things, and I think there's such a beautiful contrast in one faith versus another. I mean, you have Christianity where it's like you're worshiping this faith, and of course you're trying to embody it to a certain extent, but Buddhism has a heavier emphasis on that. And I think what the church world needs today more than anything else really is this this realization that of course spirituality is important, but we need practical solutions for our real lives today as well. You can't just pray your way to success because in reality, and this is my biggest pet peeve is people that pray for things as if you can't get them yourself. You were already given the ability to do these things. You have free will, you have arms and legs, you have a voice, you have strength, you can do all of those things. And it's like, dude, imagine you're sitting in a hole with stairs that just get you out of it, and you're sitting there praying to be lifted out of that hole. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make
stand the fuck up and walk up the stairs.
Exactly. It is one thing to pray for its gratitude. It's things outside of your control, but I see way too many people praying as if the solutions aren't right in front of them.
Yeah, prayer I think is more, it's like, I like to compare it to mindfulness in Buddhism. Prayer is just you acknowledging like what you want. You could compare it to manifestation too, hoping that people are okay or praying for a loved one. But yeah, like you said, it's about that worship aspect in Christianity that turns a lot of people off to the idea of organized religion, because there's so many Christians who would just have this belief, which is fine, but they're not really embodying the message or the purpose behind the texts that they're worshiping. I see very few Christians acting like Christ would.
Absolutely. I think I've been fortunate to be surrounded by a great community of Christians, the ones that just took me to the United Nations, and it's a wonderful family. They're called like the Epic Global Network. Amazing people who really do embody that stuff. But you're right. Generally, that isn't the rule. There are more of an exception in that world because there's a lot of people that also there's preachers that don't practice, and that goes for everything in the human world, and obviously one of the most important things is whatever you're talking about, you have to embody that. As someone that does, of course, public speaking, one of the big things that helped what's the word, impulse me on this career was deeply embodying everything that I speak about. Everything comes from the gut, from the soul, rather than just voice, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
man.
you have to walk the walk if you're going to talk the talk.
Absolutely.
You can compare these pastors who don't practice what they preach to the scummy other stock market people selling lessons who might aren't
absolutely.
even, yeah.
And a lot of the time, I mean, the biggest question that emerges with those guys too is, are you making more money from your trades in the market or from your courses, right? That's the biggest question to ask them. And a lot of the time, you can ask the same thing for the pastors, Are you doing this because of the donations that you get or the church, or is this a question of genuine faith? And you can always, always see through that. Like I said, if there's one thing that reeks, it's money hungry. And if there's one thing that you just you feel in alignment with, it's purpose. When someone talks about purpose,
Oh, you can feel it in your bones. Yeah, just you saying that, I got goosebumps. Like, actually, I'd show you, but my camera won't pick them up. Like, yeah, when you encounter someone of faith, doesn't matter what faith it is, you just know. You just know because it's this presence, this aura in them, whatever you want to call it, And I've prayed with Buddhists, I've prayed with Islams, I've prayed with Sikhs and Jews and Christians, and when you find those ones that have that true faith, you feel it. And I feel like when it comes down to like social media influencers specifically, that's a little harder to differentiate, because they're acting, so they're tricking.
it's a big reason why I got off of social media. Well, not get off of it, but I told you, I went like $20,000 deep into trying to make social media work. And I realized, you know what? This is a place for appearances. And the last thing that I want to do is be one of those superficial guys that, dude, takes the cheapest flight to Bali or something and gets the cheapest rental for a nice exotic car and just records videos for BS purposes. No, I'm not going to do that.
There's no purpose behind it.
Yeah, and then I got into speaking and I realized, man, this is where I can communicate that purpose,
Grassroots.
And a beautiful conversation that I had that changed my life a lot too was I met about a year ago or 2 years ago now, a guy who was a good friend of mine for some time. He was a multimillionaire, right? And I was talking to him, and we'd go to the gym all the time, and I was like picking his brain, and I'd ask him so much about money, and I would basically always be talking about money, right? And then he asked me one day, and he said to me, "How many times have you heard me talk about money?" And at that point, it clicked. And I'm like,
click. Another click moment.
Oh, this guy, he had never once talked to me ever about money. He was only ever speaking on purpose, on creativity, on all of these things. He invited me to this event where it was like what's the word? Like a vision board event.
Okay.
Where everyone came. Yeah, everyone came in. Everyone was like writing their goals and stuff. Everyone there, including myself, wrote stuff about I want to be making this amount of money, or I want to be president of this company, or all this stuff. He got up on that board, the only millionaire there that got the most amount of money there. He got up on the board and he just wrote, I want to find peace. I want to be happy, or something along those lines. And I was too stupid to see it at that point, but I realized that, bro, money by itself is empty. Yeah. Money is nothing, man. But when you have a purpose, exactly. When you have a purpose to put that tool towards, that's when it becomes fulfilling,
Yeah.
And before I have any cars or any fancy clothes or any fancy watches, I'm going to have thousands of people making just as much money or more than I am.
Yeah, amen. Like, I love that. Yeah, lift the other people up. And don't hate on yourself for like, really glamorizing money like that, because it's so normal. Common. Yeah. It's normal. And that aha moment is different for everyone. It's one of those, it's like, there's a secret password in all of our brains that'll trigger all these aha moments. And if someone says the right words in the right order, you'll just be like, oh shit, I see the light,
That's what it is, man.
Yeah, that's what it is. But you got to keep that curiosity.
1,000%.
Okay, so with your Stocks University thing, what sets it apart from all the other ones? How is yours not a scam?
Well, the biggest thing is people get direct access to speaking with me directly, and I'm there to help them out. And I send out the exact things that I'm doing, the exact trades that I have, the exact times to buy in and get out. So it's very easy for even the most beginner people to follow along. But all of that stuff is pretty secondary. The main thing that drives me forward is the fact that, dude, it's only $50 a month, and you don't even have to pay for your first month. It's you get you pay $5 because I want people to never have to pay me out of pocket, only ever out of profit. You know, if I'm preaching this stuff, again, practice what you preach, right? If I'm talking about this, if I'm embodying this, if I'm seeing all this success for myself and I know that it works, why would I make you pay me first? And even then, even if it wasn't so cheap, like these other guys, why would I charge you more than I'm allegedly going to be making for myself in the market, right? If my money comes from my students more than the market, I'm not really a full-time trader. I'm a full-time scammer, right? So my biggest thing is, dude, it's a passion project. Stocks Unis, it's almost like a nonprofit, the way that I see it. The mission there is to educate people, keep it deliberately the most affordable place anywhere online. I don't charge commission. I don't take profits from anyone, nothing that they make, because I want people to have access to that. I want even the poorest of families to be able to learn about this stuff and have these conversations with their children and build this generational wealth for each other.
So why don't you do it for free then?
Well, the only reason why I charge something for it is, number one, to keep the business running on its own, to be financially feasible, as well as to be able to reinvest into it. So I've got, well, obviously a lot of employees, but I do a lot of monthly workshops. I'm there. I invest myself on my own time, about 10 to 20 hours every week into the clients that I have. So it's time consuming on my end as well, but virtually for what people are of course making. I mean, even some of my newest students within the first month or two are already able to make a couple hundred in extra profit. So that's the reason why it is the way it is.
Yeah, but again, like you said, you know, you need money to make money, which unfortunately that's a barrier for some people.
Right. And actually, from that question, because I was just in the United Nations, and, you know, one of the things that kind of also was like another one of those aha moments was there's a lot of these organizations, these nonprofit organizations, which is how you get into the United Nations. And I thought about a future not too far away where I do want to make it fully nonprofit and travel to a lot of other countries and, you know, teach people that are, I guess, more in need. But of course, for now, I'm super happy with the way that everything is set up. People are seeing so much change. They're seeing so much impact in their lives for something that otherwise they would have to pay $5,000 for.
Well, yeah, it's tough when it comes to stuff like this, like any kind of education or life coaching classes. It's really hard to pick through the junk. You know, it's like Amazon. You don't know if you're going to get, or Temu, you don't know if you're going to get some plastic brittle shit that's going to break and not serve any purpose, or if it's a fucking value for its price. And it could be super beneficial for you. Right.
That was one of the big things that held me back at first was, you know, part of the reason why these other guys see so much success is because of a little phenomenon in the world of entrepreneurship where if you charge a lot of money, people automatically assume that it's worth that price ticket. So they view it as their next big solution in life, you know? So when they see a $50 price tag, sometimes it's almost like, man, why? You know, it's, you know, and that's the reason why I get into speaking. Right. That's the reason why I get into speaking. And I got into churches so much too, was to show people first that who I am, let people know that they're going to be speaking with me directly. You know, that they're in with someone that's there to have their back. And, you know, today there are so many pastors and apostles with me that have made thousands of dollars and that they're able to reinvest into even their churches as well and their people too.
Well, what you're touching on is probably the most important part if you want to have a presence or a successful anything is you got to go back to the grassroots. You got to talk to the people, you know, like the old mom and pop shop. They want to buy from the mom and pop shop because they love mom and pop. So like your clients trust you because you talk to them. And like the biggest advice I can give to anyone out there who is trying to make some kind of impression, whether it be for a business or a social media endeavor, is to sell yourself because you are essentially the product and people are going to buy or trust you if you're trustworthy, you know, or if you trick them, if you're a scummy person into think you are. But so that's what you've been doing. You've been doing these public keynotes and you talk to people face to face. And so people trust you, not the program.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that is another huge business tip is if you spend your resources building up a brand for your business, that's cool, but you're only ever going to use it to sell that one product. If you build a personal brand, and that's one thing that I suggest everyone focus on, you build your name up, you can go just about in any direction and you'll always have people to back you up.
Yeah. Like David Dobrik, he went from YouTuber to pizza shop owner to like now Snapchatter. I don't know if you're familiar with Dobrik, but yeah, that's something I learned far too late because it's putting all your eggs in one basket again, like we were talking about. Is I've built several successful brands, and then when they ended, I was like, oh shit, I have to start all fucking over again. Yeah. So finally, this time around, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna brand myself. I'm gonna sell myself out. I can't do OnlyFans. I mean, I could, but who wants to see that? I don't even want to see that. But yeah, I think that's a really important tip for people out there.
Yeah, 1000%. If there's one thing to focus on, it's that you can build a brand, but brands are vulnerable to falling into irrelevancy, and that's totally normal at a certain point. You want to have something that keeps evolving, but it's hard to evolve a brand. It's easy to evolve yourself.
Yeah. And I think this could also be used for people who are looking for good services, good products, is to find good people who are endorsing them. So instead of looking for the service, looking for the product, instead of looking for someone to teach you stocks and trading, look for good people and then listen to them and see what they're using, trust
1000%. 1000%. You buy the person, not the product, because ultimately, especially when in a service-based industry like this one of finance, you want to be working with the right people. You want to be working with people that have your back. That's about one of the rarest things in this industry is people that authentically have your back. And you need that because the market is way too complicated and your money is way too valuable to try to do it all on your own. That's one of the biggest things that I pride on is not a single one of my clients are solo. Even for the price point, again, one of the biggest reasons why I do charge period is because it's time. But that's something that if you were to value it at a market price point is, dude, that goes for thousands of dollars just to have a little bit of personal attention every week, just for one guy to call and be like, hey, how you doing? Good, cool, and then hang up on you. That's thousands, dude. And it sucks that that's the case, but you want someone that has your back and tells you when you're doing stuff wrong. So even with my most profitable clients, I tell them, hey, you're doing something wrong right there. And even though you're doing great, I had a guy that just hit 10K. He's younger than I am. And I said to him, you're doing good, but this and this is totally wrong. And you're going to end up taking a loss if you keep doing that. Watch out, So I have their back. I catch them when they're falling. I make sure that everyone's doing okay. And I think that's part of where the vision and the dream of the business even comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like your service is pretty good. I don't know. I don't have any capital to invest right now or else I'd try it out, but, I was actually, fun fact, I was a Bitcoin miner when they were at about $70 and I mined about 4 Bitcoin. And I sold them when they hit the price of gold, which was about $1,300 because the bubble, everyone's talking about the bubble. And I made about, I don't know, after my minor investment returned $2,000, but which would have been $300,000 if I waited 10 years.
I bet that still weighs on you, man.
Oh my God, dude. And people know me because when I couldn't shut the fuck up about Bitcoin, everyone's like, no one knew about cryptocurrency. I was running around like Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. So 10 years later, I'll run into people at restaurants, bars, and they'll be like, oh, you must be fucking rich now. And I'm like, oh, it just won't die.
That's the reason why I do stuff in the stock market instead of crypto. On paper, just so you know, dude, you did nothing. I hear that a lot. You did nothing wrong. I got a lot of people that tell me the same thing.
I still made a profit.
Based on what you could reasonably expect, you made a perfectly sound decision. That's why I like the stock market because we don't cross our fingers for those massive returns. You're just playing off of the consistency that you're taking rational decisions and you're getting out exactly when you think you should, which is good. I think consistent returns are so much more valuable than just hopefully getting lucky.
Well, crypto's gambling. A lot of people don't realize crypto's literally. Kind of. Some of the assets do hold a value and they have use cases, but
with all my experience in the market, I can tell you, there's some truth to that, 1000%.
Yeah, because I've been all in on XRP also for the last couple of years, and finally it paid off, but it didn't for 4 years.
Crypto's just putting your money into one place and hoping that coin is the next Bitcoin. That's pretty much what's going on now, which is valid. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, I'm a big guy. I'm focusing on just what I can predict and take profit on a reliable, consistent basis. And I trade Nike, I trade Starbucks, I trade Boeing, Apple, all these companies that I know how they're moving. I know what's going to happen, and I can very consistently take steady results on those.
Yeah, and you look at the S&P 500 and the Spider, they just consistently perform up, and so it's better than a savings account. Why wouldn't you put your money there?
Right. Those are things that are immortal because they're not based on companies. They're just based on a general market. And the SPY, the S&P, that's an index fund that it'll literally just kick out a company that's not doing well. and it just replaces it with the next big one. I mean, the S&P 500 stands for the top 500 tech companies in the world.
Yeah.
You know, very hard for that to do poorly for a long time.
Yeah, and it matches inflation and it's consistent and
Yeah, absolutely.
Best advice out there, like go throw your money from me. I don't know shit. He might yell at me, but go throw your money in the S&P 500 instead of your savings account. And if you have money just chilling in your checking account, using that as a savings account, please fucking stop. Take that money out of that checking account.
1,000%. And I wanted to also let you know, if you want access to you said you don't have any capital to invest right now, but if you want access to my service, you can have it for free, bro. I give speakers I give speakers and platform owners the platform for free because again, it's a conversation that I want you to be able to speak on from the heart. Hopefully, whenever you do have any cash, I mean, it's only a couple hundred that you really need. But if you've got anything lying around and you want to get into it, you're gonna first of all, I've got guarantees in place because you can absolutely give guarantees in the market. You just have to have a strong plan for it, and I've developed one over nearly a decade. But if it's something that you would ever want to do, Buddha, I'd love for you to be able to, not even for my sake at all, but if you've got a family, if you've got anything, those are super important conversations to have because that's what gets you out of that rat race 9 to 5 from a young age.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, thank you so much. I definitely love to check it out, and I love learning. So, like, yeah, I appreciate that. But again, look, what this is an education issue. Like, I didn't need to learn how to calculate the circumference of a sphere. You should have taught me how to do my fucking taxes.
I wish.
Like, yeah, if only.
Yeah, I still don't really know. I just go to a tax guy and tell him this how much I made this year. That's what I like about having an LLC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just you just write down this is what I made, this is what I lost. You know.
Yep.
Do my taxes.
Yeah, totally. Taxes are one thing, like I still take it in my own hands because it's so simple to me. You know, I'm good with numbers. I got that kind of autism. Like my dad is a teacher of accounting and statistics at the university here in town.
You got blessed with that.
Yeah, I'm good with numbers. But yeah, well, hey, man, we're coming to the end of our time. Just want to ask you a couple more fun questions, get off the topic. But I'll go ahead and throw all your links and stuff, your socials and your website in the bio, if that's cool, if you want to send those over to me.
Sure. Yeah, I'll send them over to you. The main thing that I'd love for you to put on there, I have a Calendly link where people can schedule times to chat with me directly. I like working with people on a more direct level because everyone has different needs. I want people to talk. I don't want to send people just to my website. I want people to talk to me and be able to connect and stuff before anything else. So I'll have my guys send over to you that information too.
Send me everything you want me to put in there and we'll get in there. Okay. If you could have dinner with one person, living or dead, throughout the entirety of history, where are you taking them to dinner, and what's the first question you're going to ask them?
Oh, dude, I wish I had time to prepare for that question. That's a really, really, really good one. You know, I think I'd probably pick someone that just made it from zero. Like really, you know what? I might say something.
I see a couple names bouncing around in your head. I can see them from here.
Yeah, dude, I got a couple. I'm thinking, so I would really love someone that really, really made it from absolute zero.
Unfortunately, Elon Musk is one of those people.
Dude, he got up there, but the thing is, his dad had bread. His dad was.
Did he?
I know he had some family that did already have some stuff, but he is one of those people. Oh, yeah. I think, regardless of the thoughts in the man, he's definitely got some wisdom there too. He's definitely a candidate. I would probably have to say Warren Buffett though, just because I could get.
I love that.
I could probably get some
richest man for a long time.
Insight. Yeah. I'm not sure if he did come up from zero, but he's got deep market insight that I would love. First thing I'd probably ask him is, what his first and foremost suggestion is in the stock market. Always a lifelong learner, so I want to learn about that.
Oh my God, I would love to have a phone call with Warren. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Fun fact, I am actually a part of the same fraternity that Warren Buffett's in. We're both Kappa Sigma. Yeah, so I guess I could leverage that and be like, give him a call.
Yeah, probably.
Hey, War. What's up, War?
Probably so. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, maybe even Robert Kiyosaki too. I'm just looking at some of the books like that. The guy that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay, because I keep hearing that about that book every now and then. Like someone says, "Rich Dad Poor Dad."
It's a very life-changing book. It helps you think about money better. I had a client reach out to me one time and ask me for some books for trading, and I said, "There's not really very many good books for trading. I suggest if you want, just give me a call." And they're like, "No, because I want to build up my mindset from zero." And I was like, "I'm never gonna hear from this potential client ever again." Yeah. But I told them to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and they read it in a day. Got back to me and signed up for my course off the bat.
Okay, nice.
Big life-changing book.
Well, yeah. So I'm assuming that's going to be the answer to a question I want to ask you. Was there one book or movie in your life that really changed your life?
Oh, honestly, not Rich Dad Poor Dad. It is a good book,
No.
but that's
Okay.
probably not the number. Dude, there's so many. I actually have a big collection right here. Um, honestly, if I were to tell you one book that just kind of got me thinking a lot different, it's either got. I've read a lot of philosophy. I love the Stoics, existentialists. Um, man, I think I have to say the 48 Laws of Power, though. If there's
48
one
Laws of
book.
Power.
Well, there's a lot of the stuff in there that's I think is kind of cringe, honestly. Like when
Yeah.
he's talking about like like manipulation and stuff like that. I think that's pretty dumb, especially because, bro, it's not that serious where you gotta like live your life looking over your shoulder for this stuff. If you're not like a politician, you don't gotta worry about that.
Right.
But there are some laws. I have them written over here in like a little journal on my wall because they were so impactful to me. Where it talks about leveraging your time, or from a business perspective, having a strong workforce that can take care of a lot of stuff for you. Because if you're doing everything, you're not really a business owner. You are a social media manager. You are
Right.
a you're doing everything, and that's not
Yeah.
really the point. So that book gave me a lot of I have it right here, as a matter of fact. It gave me so much insight.
That was
I
one of my ex-wife's favorite books, and I've neglected
what's-
it. But on your recommendation, I'm going to pick it up.
Dude, yeah, it's. I always tell people that if you're not a business owner or in some kind of position like that, don't read it because you're gonna end up just using some of these stuff in friendships and relationships, which is really stupid. This stuff really only applies to like when you got your own stuff
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff
Don't
is
treat your friends and family like they are pawns in your game.
yeah, that's like I said, it's really cringe to view it that way, dude. But I mean, there's like, for example, law number 11: learn to keep people dependent on you. Like, dude, it's not that deep, bro.
So have you ever heard of dark psychology?
Yeah, this is one of those things. Yeah,
It's one of those. Getting those vibes.
Yeah,
They're
and
good to know, to recognize if someone's actively using them against you.
but there's a lot of these things that I view it as like this doesn't really have to do with dark psychology. A lot of the laws, at least. Like for example, number 5 is so much depends on reputation. Number 6, court attention at all costs. You want a good reputation. You want to be a solid person. You want to have attention on you. Another good one that I saw was this one. This one really changed my perspective. Interaction with boldness. Another good one. That's kind of what we spoke about earlier about making moves. Recreate yourself. Concentrate your forces. Law number 23. That's a really good one as well. It talks about how if you got something that works, if you find that one gem, capitalize on that.
Capitalize it. Yeah.
For
Double
me, it was my
down.
marketing team
Chips all in.
and public speaking, and I just decided to go all in on that.
I'm assuming you're familiar, but if you haven't, on this very same topic, Robert Greene, anything by him?
Yeah, Robert Greene wrote the 40 Laws. He also has the Laws of
Oh,
Seduction.
he wrote the.
which-
Shit! He's the one that wrote that. I didn't even
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
I just
Robert
found
Greene's
him
the guy.
recently. Yeah. He's a
Yeah,
really
yeah.
smart guy.
He's a very smart guy. Very smart guy. He seems like a horrible person to be in a romantic relationship with.
Yeah, I'm
but-
pretty sure he's still single.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. But very smart guy. If you apply this, well, some of the laws intelligently and not like a psychopath, you're gonna get pretty far.
Yeah, because those are tools, and they can be used to kill someone like a sword or defend your family. So be
Right,
careful with them.
absolutely. Yeah, I try to just take the good from it.
Are you familiar with Eckhart Tolle?
No.
Eckhart Tolle. Definitely would recommend checking out Eckhart Tolle.
I'll write that
He
down.
kind of has the same life tips and advice, but on a more spiritual level.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I don't like about Robert Greene is a lot of this stuff is, it's a good handbook if you're like, I don't know, like Kim Jong Un or something, and you really got to live like that. But yeah, dude, if you're a normal person, a lot of the stuff on there is like, bro, this is gonna make me get a divorce.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you said, what was that guy's name?
Eckhart Tolle, ECK Hart, or Eckhart Tolle, yeah. He's a philosopher his whole life. He dropped out of school in high school to pursue spirituality after he experienced an awakening moment. And he doesn't align with any faith or any religion, but he just has so much insight and knowledge. And there's an entire podcast on Spotify to check out.
Wow.
Just search up Eckhart Tolle, and every episode I learned some little tip, and it's just, it's great.
Wow, I'll definitely check him out.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up with the same question I end the show with every time. I don't know if you took a chance to listen to episodes, so this might kind of slap you in the face, but would you kick a puppy? as hard as you possibly fucking could, knowing full well that puppy's probably going to suffer and die, to save 100 strangers' lives?
Are the 100 strangers going to die 1,000%?
If you don't kick the puppy, they're going to die. You're not killing them. They're going to die. But if you do kick the puppy, you save their lives.
So this is like the trolley problem.
It is literally, thank you.
worse.
You're the second person to call me out. I just like re-stamped the trolley problem for a fun little ethics.
Oh, well, you made it worse because it's a puppy.
Yeah.
But,
Oh yeah, I made it worse.
yeah. Well, in light of the trolley problem's typical questions, are these 100 human strangers that are normal people?
Oh, we can start adding asterisks as much as you want, but let's just stick with 100 strangers.
Random. They're not necessarily good or bad
No,
people.
random strangers. So you do nothing. You're not causing their death, but your action could cause the death of a puppy. So what do you
Exactly
do?
right. Well,
What
man,
would Jesus do?
dude, that's a tough one. I
Yeah.
think Jesus would walk away. I think Jesus would hang up on you right now.
Jesus never hangs up.
But that's true. Yeah. Well, I would say, man, I view it as even if it was like 100 prisoners or whatever, I think one life is equal to one life. 100 lives is more than one life.
Yeah.
100 human lives is definitely more than one puppy life, because there's so much to experience. Obviously for both, but that's 100 over a puppy.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would be taking the active decision to kill something, but if I know that it would save people, unfortunately, I think I'd have to say, is this a test? I probably would.
Yeah. No, it's not a test, man. People answer all over the board.
Yeah, I think just 100 lives is just so valuable. There's so much love to be experienced in those 100 lives, especially if they're like, 100 normal people, not like 100 psychopaths.
Or 100 Hitlers, or we could start adding asterisks. Yeah. But
Yeah,
no, 100 you don't know is 100 unknowns.
Well, yeah, I think I would. I think unfortunately,
Kicking the
I would.
puppy? Damn. Okay, we lost one for team don't kick the puppy. That's okay. There's no right answers in ethics. That's why I love them. It just makes you uncomfortable and really think about where your beliefs fall. So
Yeah, did not expect that one to be the last question of the call, but I
good.
like it.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's a fun one. I know. I'm sorry to put you through that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. I could honestly talk to you for another hour or two, but I got a dinner reservation that I got to get to. So usually I have a Polaroid and I snap a picture, throw them on the wall of Legends here. But for remote interviews now, if you just want to strike a pose and hold it for like 3 seconds, I'll get a screen grab and get you on the wall of Legends.
I got you.
All right, strike a pose. All right, great. Thank you so much, Sebastian. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, man. It's been great to be here. I very much appreciate the opportunity.